Previously, I touched on the nature of the new blood brought into Disney animation like Maleficent's Goons. Since that article, new information has come to light. Sorry, I skipped back a little bit. Talking about Jennifer Lee still, I believe, here. This is from Fawn of Veristhorn. I can't say this name, Verisanthorn, regarding the hiring pool coming from Raya and the Last Dragon. When she addresses how she got her job at Disney, she states, "I didn't grow up in the big city, and I think with the change of the internet and social medias, the youngest generation will still being able to benefit to see from the work that millennials like me put on their social media platforms, and for us to see a variety of talents putting their work out, that kind of changed the landscape of the hiring pool." And then we said before, instead of hiring formally trained artists from traditional institutions like Cal Arts, explicitly recruited social media websites, including Tumblr and Reddit, a fact confirmed by numerous sources. To be clear, Tumblr was not inherently problematic. Most of my contacts used Tumblr to host their portfolios and included links to the site on their CV. What mattered was that your social media profile checked the right boxes, for example, female and not white. Today, that box has been revised to female presenting.
Yeah, and I which I now fit into that now.
There we go.
I don't understand why every man doesn't do that at this point.
I might have to.
If it's that fluid, why don't you identify in that way for 8 hours a day, and then you're just so transformational in this world that you identify otherwise at other times. Yeah. You're a true chameleon.
Yep. Here's a kicker. One source said that as long as gender quotients in hiring were being met, quote, it didn't matter what your experience was, as long as your stuff looked good. You can work for Disney Animation, your stuff on Tumblr, I guess. And any animation studios, Paramount, DreamWorks, Netflix, Warner Brothers, etc. So, again, here we are with this idea that if the pictures, the little things you put up on social media you did yourself, as long as it met a certain basic minimum standard, you were hired. Experience didn't matter. Your resume didn't matter. None of that mattered. The most important thing was which one of those diversity checkboxes, or more appropriately, how many of those diversity checkboxes could you hit? And that, to me, strikes of maybe, just maybe, being a civil rights problem.
If you're a dude at Disney, you need to wear a kilt tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, and just don't tell him it's Scottish. Just tell him it's a dress.
That's right.
Another source noted that Tumblr was, quote, unequivocally the base for new talent. Women from the social media site were quickly scooped up and placed on Raya and the Last Dragon, along with other animated shows and features at Disney. Talent was always an afterthought. It was
always. The word "always" is not well advised here.
Yeah. Well, it's
always in the limited history of the source. We're counting this.
Yeah. I guess a little journalistic artistry here, I'm sure. Talent was always an afterthought. It was more important that these women could pad the quotas and become useful foot soldiers for the cause of DEI. Once in, the activists were asked for referrals, and now that they were in a position to hire other artists from their friends' squads, they were now hiring based seemingly on their politics. Those friends' squads quickly created a powerful contingent, not just at Disney. The existence of these squads began to radically shift the power structure at Disney Animation, which led to radical changes in the long-held Disney traditions of animation, which sounds a lot, like the Bergs that you were just talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So now he goes on to say, let's talk about quality. Let's get rid of some of these pop-up ads. The vast majority of the newly hired Tumblr talent is self-taught. There's nothing wrong with that as an artistic starting point. Successfully copying your favorite artist is the first indicator that one has minimal talent. The problem is that Tumblr is not an art college and will not give you the proper training required to grow. Tumblr-based artists are constantly being affirmed by fellow Tumblr artists, which breeds an unhealthy level of narcissism and bad habits. Constructive criticism is the key to growth, but online criticism of one's art is always taken personally and inevitably sparks drawn-out struggle sessions of hurt feelings, followed by personal attacks. Best to keep your criticisms to yourself if you want to be part of the friend squad. It's well known in the art community that Tumblr has a bad reputation. In fact, Tumblr cartoons is a term for awful animation featuring bad design and uninspired storytelling. One source told me that Tumblr was ground zero for this mess we're in. Along with a subpar portfolio, these artists, a subpar, I think is what he means, a subpar portfolio, these artists had not yet completed their 10,000 hours, and they brought bad art habits with them into the big animation studios. Some artists also find Tumblr cartoons too preachy or heavy-handed, sacrificing subtlety and nuance to align with the message. Now, let me stop there. What is one of the biggest complaints that we have about modern filmmaking in the last few years? Is the message itself being bashed over everyone's head with a steel mallet, but at the same time, there is no subtlety to it. It is in your face. There are direct lines about it. It's just boom, boom, boom. And it seems like Hollywood, right down to the award shows, including the Oscars themselves, that's literally what they're celebrating now. This is what they're handing out Best Picture awards for, is the message and the statements, or even nominations. We played the video earlier with Iger talking about he was so happy and proud of himself for Black Panther. Why did Black Panther get nominated for Best Picture? No other Marvel title ever had. Well, we could see it in the reviews that we covered when the movie came out a few years ago. Everything that they talked about, the first lines in all these reviews, these glowing reviews that was frankly a very mediocre, average run-of-the-mill Marvel character film, was how representative it was. And how, in some direct language, one of the quotes was how beautifully black it was. This was like every single review out there. So they're paying attention to these things, as you said, these immutable characteristics that shouldn't matter. Is it a good story?
But to be
is
fair,
it driving?
is it really just Disney? I mean, because if you think about it, the reason you sent me an invite here is to fill your black quota. You wanted to make sure that you had enough racial diversity here on your panel.
Yes.
So everyone pays into it. Speaking of which, times are kind of tight right now. I'm trying to raise money, and I am on the side an artist. I just want to make this my submission for a self-portrait that I've created. Disney, Warner Brothers, any of you who are looking to hire, I am a black man looking for a job, and here's my self-portrait.
Wait a minute, that says Hunter Biden in the bottom right. What are you talking about? Where did you steal that from?
There we go. There we just got demonetized saying that word.
Hey, go ahead.
I was going to say, let me grab a few of these super chats real quick, because
in that case, let me make one quick.
Yeah,
point.
Go ahead.
Here's the quick point, because this blows my mind when I think about it. We live in if you're over 25, folks, let this settle in. We live in a time when Brokeback Mountain would not be allowed on screens because it would be too conservative. And it's too conservative because both of the actors were straight men. So therefore it's inauthentic. Brokeback Mountain is too conservative to make it onto the screen. That's where we live today.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I know you're joking, but you're not joking, I know, at the same time, because you're right. They would demand that both actors playing those roles would have to be gay in real life.
And they're too pasty white.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.